Welcome to this video lesson on Stuart Hall's essay Encoding and Decoding. This will give you an overview about the theorist Stuart Hall and a brief summary of the essay Encoding and Decoding, focusing on the 4 stages in the communication circuit. An eminent British intellectual, Stuart Hall, has been central to the formation and development of cultural studies as an international discipline. Stuart Hall, the so-called godfather of multiculturalism, was born and raised in Jamaica and arrived in Britain on a Rhodes Scholarship to Oxford in the 1950s. Along with Raymond Williams and Richard Hogarth, he established the first cultural studies program at a British university in Birmingham in 1964, bringing the study of popular culture into the understanding of political and social change. For Hall, cultural studies was never a discipline in itself, but a field of inquiry, a mechanism to understand the broader structures that shaped our everyday lives. His most famous works while at Birmingham included analysis of how meanings are transmitted and received in media, encoding and decoding, as well as how our identity is based on age, class, race, and gender intersected with dominant ways of seeing. Hall's essays were profound and his concepts were far-reaching, even if embedded in an analysis of the present political moment punctuated by patriotism and so on. After spending more than 4 decades as one of the UK's leading public intellectuals, Hall retired from formal academic life in 1997 and since then has continued to devote himself to questions of representation, creativity, and difference. The encoding-decoding model of communication was first developed by Stuart Hall in 1973. He discussed this model of communication in an essay entitled Encoding and Decoding in the Television Discourse. Hall's essay offers a theoretical approach of how media messages are produced, disseminated, and interpreted. His model claims that TV and other media audiences are presented with messages that are decoded or interpreted in different ways depending on an individual's cultural background, economic standing, and personal experiences. This work of Hall's brought a revolution in mass media research and communication. Traditionally, mass communication theorists and researchers have conceptualized the process of communication in terms of a circuit: production, distribution, and consumption. Since the late 1940s, they have represented communication as a linear process: sender, message, receiver. Hall proposed to rethink this model, offering readers a much more dynamic model with a focus on television. Hall identified a complex structure involved in message production and its reception. The traditional communication theory took the audience for granted. It considered the audience as passive, but Stuart Hall brought to notice the active role of audience by focusing upon the complex process of encoding and decoding. In his essay, Hall proposed 4-stage theory of communication in which he identified the following stages in the circuit or the communication loop: production, circulation, use or consumption, and reproduction. The first one, that is production. This is where the encoding of a message takes place. By drawing upon society's dominant ideologies, the creator of the message is feeding off the society's beliefs and values. Second one is circulation, the subtle manner in which a message is transmitted, how things are circulated. influences how audience members will receive the message and put it to use, which is the third stage, use or consumption. This is the decoding or interpreting of a message which requires active recipients. This is a complex process of understanding for the audience. The last and the final one is reproduction. This is the stage after audience members have interpreted the message in their own way based on their experiences and beliefs. What is the reaction after consuming the message is the stage of reproduction. Hall says each of these stages is relatively autonomous from the other. He meant to say that each of these steps is autonomous at the same time, logically interdependent in the chain. According to him, each stage has its own determining limits and possibilities. Hall says there is no random interpretation at any stage because each stage limits the possibilities in the next. Hall perceived a complex structure of dominance in the messages. Before going into the details in the essay, I will give you an example to understand this complex structure of communication. Take the case of a jewelry ad, anyone. Here the main thing is to sell more jewelry, or people have to buy more jewelry. If this message is conveyed plainly, no one is going to take heed of it. So it needs to be encoded into a discourse. In the ad, the discursive form takes up a plot. For example, a daughter is getting married and life is not complete without the branded jewelry, and so on, and something like that. So when that message is encoded, many other technical elements also come to play, like actors, lights, setting, music, broadcasting structures, etc. Once the message is encoded into a pleasant discourse, it is ready for next step, that is circulation. Through various strategies, this discursive form is circulated and is passed to the target audience. Both in production stage and circulation, there would be a power structure beneath which wields control over the production as well as circulation in a very covert manner. A simple example is a product of much use, but if it is not branded, the circulation will be less and won't reach the people. The third stage is use or consumption, where the target audience consume and decode the message. Like they watch the ad and they apply it, they decode it, and they believe that they need this much jewelry if they wanted to get their daughters married. That message is decoded. Here the problem of symmetry and asymmetry comes to play. The encoding and decoding process is symmetric only if the right message is decoded. If the message is not recognized or appropriate for an audience, the process would be asymmetric. For example, the same jewelry ad in a Western context is inappropriate. No, they may not receive it as an Indian man or a woman receives it. It is entirely different. The Western audience cannot recognize that message. They decode it in a very different manner. So the process is asymmetric. The last stage in the circuit is reproduction. That is, the decoded message is put to use through social practices. For example, the same jewelry ad, the target audience watch this ad and they apply it into their own life. Jewelry becomes integral part of marriages. So please keep this example in the mind when you watch the rest of the video, so that all the concepts that we discuss hereafter will be clear from the point of view of this ad. This structure of dominance varies at each stage. First, the institutional structures of broadcasting with their practices and networks of production, their organized relations and technical infrastructures are required to produce a program, an ad, or whatever. Production here constructs the message. Thus, the circuit begins here. The production process has its discursive aspect. It molds a message in a presentable form. An ad example. This means that the product is circulated in a phenomenal form, not plainly but in a discourse. The transmission process requires at production end some material instruments as well as a set of social relations, the organization and combination of practices within media apparatuses. In this case, the product is circulated in a discursive form. Once accomplished, the discourse must be translated into social practices. That is the last stage, if the circuit is to be completed. Further, the production structures draw the message from the other discursive formations created by wider socio-cultural and political power structures, language, dominant culture, ideology, and so on. After drawing on these discursive formations or the available knowledge in the society, the message is ideologically circulated in a presentable and acceptable manner. At the stage of production, message is appropriated as per the technical needs, and at the stage of circulation, it is appropriated as per the socio-economic and language power relations. The message is given a presentable shape, a message form, and this message form becomes the vehicle of the intended message. Before it is put to use or consumption, the message is appropriated as a meaningful discourse so that it is meaningfully decoded. Remember the example. The message of using jewelry is put into a meaningful discourse, an ad. Only then it can be meaningfully decoded by the target audience. At the stage of use, the audience can decode the message as per their socio-economic and political background. The audience might have differing socio-economic and political background. As the background differs, the decoding also differs. It is this set of decoded meanings which have an effect, influence, entertain, instruct, or persuade with very complex perceptual, cognitive, emotional, ideological, or behavioral consequences. In a determinate moment, the power relations encode a message. At another determinate moment, the message via its decodings comes into social practice and acquires social use, value, or political effectivity. As the message is discursively produced, circulated, and used or consumed, there arise distortions or misunderstandings. That is, when the message is, the process of communication is asymmetric, distortions happen or misunderstandings happen when the target audience cannot recognize the message or connect or relate with the message. As the encoded message is not decoded in a desired way, there is a kind of non-identity or lack of equivalence between encoding and decoding. At both the ends, message is produced differently. At one end, producers create a message. At another level, reader or the audience creates a meaning. Thus, encoding and decoding both are creative moments. The viewer detautalizes the message in the preferred code in order to retautalize the message within some alternative framework of reference. Hall says reality exists outside the language due to this fact. There is no intelligible discourse without the operation of a code. Iconic signs or visual signs are also coded signs. Association between the image and the meaning is not natural. It is the part of convention. I hope you can relate this to Derrida's concepts on signifier, signified and so on. But this convention achieves universality or naturalness. This has the ideological effect of concealing the practices of coding which are present. Thus, the audience comes to naturally accept the televisual signs. Hall says we must remain conscious about the appearance of the coded message. So it is at the connotative level of the sign that situational ideologies alter and transform signification. And then Hall moves on to describe connotative level of meaning and the denotative one. At connotative level, we can see more clearly the active intervention of ideologies in and on discourse. Here, the sign is open to new actuations and interpretations. Already coded signs intersect with the deep semantic codes of a culture and take on additional or more active ideological dimensions. The so-called denotative level of the televisual sign is fixed by certain very complex but limited or closed codes. But its connotative level, though also bounded, is more open, subject to more active transformations which exploit its polysemic values or multiple meanings. Every society has its dominant cultural order which is put in the message. The message intends to give dominant or preferred meanings. The domains of preferred meanings have the whole social order embedded in them as a set of meanings, practices and beliefs, the everyday knowledge of social structures of how things work for all practical purposes in this culture, the rank, order of power and interest and structure of legitimations, limits and sanctions, everything will be included in that discourse. The message every time does not work out as per the pre-arranged codes or encoding. The ideal of the broadcasters is to have perfectly transparent communication. Instead, what they have to confront is systematically distorted communication. So that is what we get from media, from news, from advertisements. We get systematically distorted messages. According to Stuart Hall, there will always be private, individual variant readings. So there would be readings which are not classified as preferred readings or readings which are foreground preferred meanings. The visual sign takes on active ideological dimension at the level of connotation, where already coded signs intersect with deep semantic codes. Advertising discourse illustrates this point. Every sign connotes a quality, situation, value or inference which is present as an implied meaning. Consider Bard's example of the sweater, which is the rhetoric of advertising and fashion, always connotes a warm garment or keeping warm. And thus by further connotative elaboration, the coming of winter or a cold day. In the subcodes of fashion, sweater may connote a fashionable style of haute couture or alternatively an informal style of dress. Set against the right background, it may connote a long autumn which any culture is classified. Maps of social reality have the whole range of social meanings, practices and uses, power and interest written into them. But on the other hand, the denotative level of the television sign is fixed by complex codes. The connotative level is open to active transformations which exploit its polysemic values. Any society or culture tends to impose its classification of the social and the cultural and the political world on the citizens' uses. These constitute a dominant cultural order. By this we mean a pattern of preferred readings. They have institutional, political, ideological order imprinted on them. According to Stuart Hall, reader or audience is also equally important. Here Hall identifies three positions from which the audience or the reader might take while decoding the message. That is the dominant position, negotiated position and the oppositional position. The first one, dominant or hegemonic position. This position is one where the consumer takes the actual meaning directly and decodes it exactly the way it was decoded. The consumer operates within the dominant point of view and fully shares the codes of the text and accepts and reproduces the intended meaning. Here, there is barely any misunderstanding because both the sender and receiver have the same cultural biases. This is the ideal typical case of perfectly transparent communication. Negotiated position. There is a second one. This position is a mixture of accepting and rejecting elements. As a whole states, decoding within negotiated version contains a mixture of adaptive and oppositional elements. Readers acknowledge the dominant message but do not accept everything the way the encoder intended. The reader to a certain extent shares the text codes and generally accepts the preferred meanings but simultaneously also resists and modifies the message in a way which reflects his or her own experiences and interests. Negotiated codes operate through what we might call particular or situated logics. The third one is oppositional position. In this position, a consumer understands the literal meaning, but due to different backgrounds, each individual has his own way of decoding messages, while forming his own interpretations gets exactly the opposite of the intended meaning. Here, continuing with the same example of the Industrial Relations Bill, which is cited in the essay, a group may take opposite stand and may read every mention of the national interest as class interest. He is operating with what we must call an oppositional code. But in the first position, it is not so. Whatever is there in the bill, it is digested as it is. Improving communications or making communications more effective as an educational goal, for example, is difficult when moving beyond the strictly denotative level of the message. To conclude, denotative misunderstanding is not important. However, connotative or the contextual misunderstanding can be of the highest structural significance. Making hegemonic codes of dominant elites more effective for the majority audience is a political matter, not a technical one. So, what Stuart Hall tries to foreground is that there is a power structure which comes to play behind this communication model in production, in reproduction, in use and in circulation. We find this power structure that comes to play which controls both connotative meanings as well as denotative meanings. Hope you have got a clear picture of the essay encoding and decoding. So keep in mind the 4 stages in the communication process and then about the symmetry and asymmetry in the process, the distortions or misunderstandings, then about preferred meanings and preferred reading, and then the 3 different positions the negotiated position, the dominant position, and the oppositional position. Thank you.